Yeah, fine guys. In the last class, we understood how to develop a provider and how to develop consumer also. To develop consumer, there are multiple ways available in the Spring Boot. One of the approach is by using REST template, and second one is by using web client. Third one is by using PN client. We already developed one client application by using REST template. REST template is a predefined class available in web starter dependency. Whenever you select a web starter, then you can use this REST template class. In this REST template class, there are several methods available to send HTTP request from one application to another application. Provider is running in the cloud platform. We have the documentation of the provider. We can understand the provider by using this Swagger documentation. Now, consumer development. We developed our consumer. This is the URL to book the ticket, and this is the URL to get the ticket. Okay. So now to book the ticket, we need to send a post request. How we will understand that? When we need to send the post request, and how we need to, for which request we need to go for post, for which request we need to go for get. Provider will give documentation, what operation you want to perform. Based on that, you need to send either post request or get request. If you want to send post request, there is a method called post for entity. Here there is a method called get for entity is available. Post for entity to send a post request to the given URL. Get for entity to send the get request for the given URL. Perfect. But the problem is REST template currently people are using or not using? Not using. Why we are not using? Right, it is under maintenance. That Spring only told that if you want to develop client application, instead of REST template, you go for web client. What is web client? What is web client? Web client is an interface that is available in WebFlux Starter. Okay, in the Spring 5.x version, they introduced a concept called WebFlux Starter. By using that WebFlux, we can go for web client. By using this web client, we can send a request from one application to another application. So let me write few points about web client. Web client is a predefined interface. Web client is a predefined interface available in Spring 5.x version or introduced. Predefined interface introduced in Spring 5.x version. Okay, what is the main purpose of this web client? To send a HTTP request programmatically. Earlier we sent HTTP request by using Postman. Later we developed Make My Trip application. Make My Trip application sending HTTP request to IRCTC by using get for entity, post for entity. Similarly, if you want to send HTTP request, you can go for web client. Web client is a predefined interface introduced in the Spring 5.x version. Using web client, we can send HTTP requests, right? Like you can send get request, you can send post request, you can send put request, delete request, etc. Right? All types of HTTP requests can be sent by using web client. Web client supports both synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. Synchronous and asynchronous communications will be supported by web client. Web client is a part of WebFlux Starter. As of now, we are adding only web starter to develop our application. If you want to use a web client, web starter is not sufficient, guys. We need to go for WebFlux Starter. To use web client, we need to add WebFlux Starter. we need to add webflux starter in pom.xml file. Right. Web client is a predefined interface introduced in the 5.x version. Using web client, we can send HTTP requests, get, post, put, delete. Web client supports both synchronous and asynchronous communication. To use web client, we need to add webflux starter in the pom.xml. Already we have client application. In this client application, I will comment the logic which is already available, which is developed by using REST template. Same logic I will implement by using web client now. Got it? First, let me go to project pom.xml. Go to project pom.xml. Which dependency available? Spring Boot starter web is available. But if you want to use web client, what is required? To use web client, we need webflux starter. So go to mvnrepository.com. Let us check for webflux. Let us check for webflux. Spring Boot starter webflux dependency is available. Okay. Take this dependency. Version is not required here, guys. So let me remove the version. Right. Boot starter web. Boot starter webflux. Webflux dependency I am adding. Perfect. Now go to our service layer. Where is the business logic available? Business logic available in the service layer. Okay. Now let me comment this logic, guys. Let me comment this logic that is implemented by using REST template. And let me comment this logic also, which is implemented by using REST template. Got it. Now let me go for web client implementation. First, let me go for get ticket by ticket number. I have the ticket number and I want to send get request to the IRCTC by using web client. Okay. Observe carefully. As I told you, web client is an interface. Can we create the object for the web client, or we cannot create the object for the web client? We cannot create object for the web client. So let me do like this. Web client dot create. There is a factory method. If you call interface dot that create method, it will provide the object for implementation class. Okay. Web client dot create. I got the web client object. So web client is a class or web client is a interface? Interface. From which version that interface got introduced? 5.0. Right. So here what I'm doing, web client dot create. What is the meaning of this? Get the instance of web client. What is the meaning of that? IMPL class object will come. When I call web client dot create method, web client interface implementation class object will be provided. Web client interface implementation class object will be provided. Now send a get request, and map response to ticket object. That is the next task. Get the instance of web client. I got that. By using this web client, I need to send a get request to the IRCTC API. I have the URL of the IRCTC. When I send a get request to the IRCTC, what it will send me? It will send me the ticket data. It will send me the ticket data. So ticket data will come in the JSON format. I need to map that response to ticket object. Got it? Observe. Web client object I got already. Web client dot get. Web client dot get method is available. Dot get. What is the meaning of dot get? What is the meaning of dot get? It is used to send a get request. In the REST template, what is the method we have? Get for entity. In the web client, what is the method we have? Direct get method is available. Web client object is available. By using web client, I'm calling get method. Web client dot get, it represents get request. To which URL we need to send the get request? Specify by using .uri. So what is the URL I have? Get ticket URL. Let me specify get ticket URL. Okay. Web client dot get dot URI get ticket URL dot retrieve. That means here it is going to send the request to this URL. Once it will give the response, you retrieve that response. Once you got the response, then you map that response to which class object. I want to map that response to ticket class object, then dot block. Dot block. So this is the logic that we need to write to make a get request by using web client. What it is going to return? It is going to return ticket object for us. Let's understand the code that I am writing for that. First one I am calling dot get method. What is the meaning of dot get method? I want to send get request. To which URL we want to send the get request? By using .uri, I'm specifying that. Then I'm having .retrieve method. What is the purpose of .retrieve? It is used to capture response body data. Once I got the response body data, I want to map the body data to ticket object. I'm getting ticket JSON. That ticket JSON should be converted to ticket object. For that I'm using body to mono. Then after I'm calling dot block method. Dot block method is used to specify you wait till you get the response from the IRCTC API. Once you got the response, then store that response into this variable. I am making this as a sync call. I'm making this as a sync call. Sync call means after making the request, you wait for the response. After you got the response, store the response into variable, then return that object. So this is the logic that we have implemented by using REST template. Now, by using web client, this is the logic that I am writing. Web client object I am getting by using web client.create method. Web client.get method to make a get request. .uri, to which URL you want to make a get request, I am representing that. .retrieve method is available to retrieve the response from the body, which is given by IRCTC. We are getting JSON response. That JSON response you map to the ticket object. By using body to mono, we are mapping that to the ticket object. Then we are going for dot block. Dot block means you make it as a synchronous call. Once you make a request, you wait for the response. After receiving the response, you map the response to ticket object and return that ticket object. Can we check this logic is working or not? Yes, let's try this. Debug. As Spring Boot application, I am having a controller. Inside the controller, there is a get ticket method is available, right? This is the method which is used to get the ticket by using ticket number. Application is running. Go to browser, localhost :8080. Okay, I'm able to access our application. Go to view ticket button. Enter the ticket number as something like 6. Okay, right? Click on get ticket. Right, there is a breakpoint here. Now, am I able to get the ticket number from the form? Am I able to get the ticket number? Yes, I'm able to get that. Go to service layer, web client.create. What is the meaning of web client.create? Get the implementation class object of the web client interface. I got that. Then I am going for web client.get method. What is the meaning of a .get method? Send a get request. Okay. .uri. What is the meaning of .uri? To which URL you want to send the request. .retrieve. What is the meaning of .retrieve? Get the JSON data. It is failed. Okay. Go to console. Not enough variable values available to expand ticket number. Yes, now observe. So here our URL is available. For this URL, there is a path variable. What is the meaning of a path variable? Ticket number. Whatever the ticket number we are getting from the UI, the ticket number we have to send to the IRCTC as a path variable. Now, if you see .uri method, last parameter, URI comma URI variables available. So get ticket URL and ticket number is available. I will pass the ticket number as a parameter. What is the meaning of that? This is the URL. In that URL, one path parameter is available. This is the value for the path parameter. Got it? Now save this code. Get. Perfect. Get a ticket URL with a ticket number. Perfect. Application will restart because of dev tools. All right. Go here. Ticket get request method is available. Ticket number 6 and click on get ticket. Okay. Fine. Make my trip controller method got called. Request came. I have received the ticket number. Go to service layer method. We know that. Getting the object of implementation class F6. Web client.get method. Make a get request to which URL. This is the URL. In that URL, path parameter available. I'm passing that data as a second parameter. Then retrieve. Retrieve means retrieve the JSON from the response body. Then body to mono. What is the meaning of body to mono? Whatever the JSON we got, store that JSON to ticket object. Then block. What is the meaning of a block? You wait for the operation. You wait for the response. Once you got the response, then you return the ticket object. Once you got the response, you return the ticket object. Okay. We got the ticket object. That ticket object I'm adding to model object and I'm returning the view page. Then in the view page, we are able to get that ticket data. Whatever the name, from address, to address, date of journey, status, cost, we are able to get the response. So with this, are we able to send get request to the IRCTC by using web client? Yesterday in the last session, we sent the same type of request by using REST template. Today we are sending that by using web client. Look at this logic, guys. First thing we need to understand web client. What is web client? Come on, guys. Web client is a predefined interface that introduced in the Spring 5.x version. Using web client, we can send HTTP requests, get, post, put, delete. Web client supports both synchronous and asynchronous communication. What is synchronous, asynchronous? We have not discussed it yet. We will discuss that. Okay. To use web client, we need to add webflux starter in the pom.xml. We have added that and we are able to write the web client logic. Web client.create. What is the meaning of web client.create? Get the implementation class object for the web client interface. Then I want to make a get request by using web client. What I need to do for that? Web client.get. It is used to send the get request. Then we are having .uri. So to which URL you want to make a request and what are the path parameters available? Suppose if I want to send a query parameter, key value. So key value you need to store in a map. That map you need to pass as a parameter. Got my point? Here I am having path parameter. So I'm passing the value directly. Then what is the .retrieve method? Take the data which is coming from the response. Then map that by using ticket object. Convert the JSON data to ticket object. Block, you wait for that response. Then return ticket object. Whatever the ticket object returning by service, controller adding that to the model object, controller returning the view page. In the view page, we are displaying that ticket information. So this is our view page. In the view page, we are displaying that. Are you clear? Good. Name. This is coming as a paragraph. That's fine. Name, ticket name. If I want to display in the same line, I need to make it as table. In that, I need to make it as TR. Then I need to make it as TD. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 rows are required. First one is name. Second one is from to date of journey. Cost. Right? Then there is a breakpoint. Disable the breakpoints. Proceed further. Now, so we are able to get the table data. Name something like this. So to make it more beautiful, you can add guys, this is not a bootstrap table, it's just a normal table. Right. So once you enter the ticket number 7, click on get ticket. We are able to get the ticket information. Ticket number 8, get ticket we are getting. From where we are getting the ticket? Is that information available in Make My Trip application? So where the tickets are available? Tickets are available in the IRCTC. But we are accessing Make My Trip application. When you enter the ticket number, click on get ticket. From Make My Trip application UI, request is going to controller. Controller is talking to service. Service is sending a request to IRCTC API. IRCTC API giving the response. That response coming to the end user in the Make My Trip application. So can we call them as distributed applications now? One project is communicating with the another project. How one project communicating with another project? In the API side, REST controller is available. At the client side, web client is available. So tell me, what is the purpose of REST controller? What is the purpose of REST controller? REST controller is used to handle B2B request. You send a request for the REST controller, it will give the response to you. Right. So if you want to establish communication between two applications, in one application, REST controller will be available. In another application, web client or REST template or PN client will be available. What is the difference between REST template and web client? What is the difference between REST template and web client? REST template supports only synchronous communication, whereas web client supports both synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. Now, we are able to send GET request by using web client. Similarly, can we send POST request also using web client to book the ticket? So we are getting passenger object as a method input. Now, I need to send POST request to book the ticket. I need to send the passenger data in the POST request body. How to send POST request by using REST template? POST for entity. Now let me go for this web client. Get the instance of the web client. get the instance of the web client, send the post request, send post request with a passenger data and map response to ticket object. What that post request is doing in the IRCTC, it is taking passenger data as a input. It will book the ticket, then it will return ticket object as a response, right? Now web client object available. Let me go for web client dot post. What is the method I'm calling? Dot post method. What is the meaning of dot post? I want to send post request. If you want to send get request, dot get method. If you want to send post request, dot post method. Web client dot post dot URI. Web client dot post dot URI. What is the meaning of URI? To which URL you want to send the request. What is the request URL? Book ticket URL. Any query parameters or path parameters for this URL? Any query parameters or path parameters? Not required, because it is a post request. I want to send the data in the request body. Okay. In the previous method, body available or body not available? No, because it is a get request. Now I am sending post request. In the post request, I need to send passenger data in the body. Okay. Dot body. So here we are going to specify body. I'm going to keep body inserters dot body. I'm going to specify body inserters dot from object. Body inserters dot from object. What is that object? Passenger object. Body inserters dot from object. What is the meaning of that? Right. Dot retrieve dot body to mono. What is that? Ticket dot class. Then dot block. That's it. Okay, guys. So here we are having dot post method. What is the meaning of dot post method? To send a post request. What is this method? Dot URI. What is the meaning of dot URI? To which URL you want to send the post request. Dot body. What is the meaning of dot body? What data you want to send in the request body. Body inserters dot from object. It is deprecated. Let me remove this. That means in future version it will not be available. Dot body value. No. Dot body value. Directly there is a method called dot body value method is available. What is the meaning of dot body value? I'm giving passenger data in the form of object. You convert that passenger object into JSON format. You send the request with the JSON data. Then you retrieve the response. Ticket data will come as a response. Body to mono. Convert that ticket JSON to ticket object. Dot block. That means wait for the response. So it is going to give us a ticket object. It is going to give us a ticket object. Okay. Then finally, let me return that ticket object. Finally, let me return that ticket object. Good. Look at this method, guys. This is my service method. My service method taking passenger object as a input. Passenger data will come from the UI. Once I get the data from the UI to the controller, controller is calling my service method. What my service method is doing? It is sending a post request to the given URL with the help of web client object. Web client dot post. I want to send a post request dot URI. To which URL you want to send the post request? Dot body value. What data you want to send in the request body? Dot retrieve. Once you send the request, you will get some response. Take that response. Body to mono. API will give you ticket JSON data. You store that data into ticket object. Dot block. You wait for the response. Finally, I'm going to return the ticket object. Yep. Look at this logic. Very simple. Web client dot post dot URI dot body value dot retrieve body to mono and block method. Let's try this. This logic is working as expected or not. Let me keep a breakpoint here. Controller book ticket post request method. Debug. I have started my application in the debug mode. Localhost colon 8080. Yep. Page is loaded, guys. Right? Let's enter some details. HYD, Pune, date of journey, ticket number, sum 2582. Okay. Click on submit. Your ticket booked with ID 141. That means 140 requests are received for IRCTC application. I think you people practiced. You accessed that URL. 140 tickets already booked. Now I have booked 141 ticket. Click on view ticket. Enter the number as 141. Click on get ticket. Am I able to get my ticket data? So in my make my trip application, am I storing ticket anywhere? Are we storing the ticket anywhere? We are not storing any ticket here. Everything is maintained by IRCTC. Go back. Now, let me uncheck this. I want to book one more ticket, something like this. Raja from Delhi to HYD, date of journey tomorrow. Train number 7894, something like that. Click on submit. I'm sending post request. Data appended to the URL, data not appended to the URL. That means it is going in the body. The data is going in the request body. Okay. Let's go to this controller. Book ticket method is available. Check it. Are we able to get the passenger data from the form? Yes. When you submit the form data is coming to controller method. What this controller doing? Service.bookTicket. It is calling service layer method by passing ticket object as a parameter. I got the ticket data. Then what I am doing in the line number 23? Web client.create. What is the meaning of that? Do you think that I'm creating object for web client? Can I create it? No. Why I cannot create? Because it is a interface. We can get the object of that. Web client.create. Okay. I got the web client object. Then F6. Web client.post. What is the meaning of web client.post? What is the meaning of web client.post? Right? So I want to make a post request. Guys. Right. So once I tell that I want to send a post request, immediately I'm telling to which URL I want to send a post request. .URI. If you have path parameter, comma, that path parameter value. If you have query parameter, map object you need to supply. In the map, you can store your key and value. That map you can pass as a parameter. Then after, I want to send the data in the body. How I am sending that? Body value. Passenger object I am passing. F6. Retrieve. What is the meaning of retrieve? I want to get the JSON data in the response. That JSON I want to convert to ticket object. Body to mono. Then next one, dot block. What is the meaning of dot block? Wait for the response. Then F6, right? I am getting the ticket object. Ticket got booked. What is the ticket number? Earlier 141. Now I am getting the ticket as 142. F6, right? Whatever the ticket booked, I'm sending the ticket ID in the message. F8. Now you can see your ticket booked with ID 142. Okay. Now take this 142, go to view ticket, enter the ticket number, click on get ticket. Then request is going to my controller method. My controller method taking the ticket number from the query parameter. Then it is calling service layer method. In the service layer method, creating the web client object. Then web client.getter. dot URI, dot retrieve, dot body to mono, dot block, return the ticket object, then send it to the UI by using model object. That ticket will be printed here. Are you clear? How we are communicating from one application to another application. Here guys, client application is also a Spring Boot application. Provider application is also a Spring Boot application. If a client application is a Python, is there any difference? No. Why? Client is sending JSON to the provider. Provider is sending JSON to the client. This client can be Python or Angular or React or Java or .NET. It can be anything. It can be anything. The only thing is HTTP protocol is the mediator and we are sending HTTP request. JSON data we are sending, JSON data we are getting. What technology? Which technology is used to develop those applications, that is not important. Okay, are we able to send proper request or not? Are we getting proper response or not? Only that part is important for us. When we are working as a REST API developer, you should not bother about the technology. You need to bother about the protocol. Which protocol, what data, what is input, what is output, what is the status code, what is the status message. That is important for us. Are you able to understand the flow? Are you able to understand the flow? Yes, good. Look at this. Finally, we got some clarity how distributed applications will work in the real time. One application will act as a client, another application will act as a provider. Provider means the application which is giving services to other application. The application which is giving services to other application is called as provider. Then what is a consumer? The application which is taking services from the other application. One is providing, another one is consuming. Once provider development is completed, provider will give documentation about the API. What is the purpose of that documentation? That documentation will tell you where is the provider, how is the provider, what operations available in the provider, what is input of the provider, what is output of the provider, what methods are available, they are binded to which type of request, what is the URL pattern. Everything will be available in the documentation. That documentation is very important for the consumers. It is very important for the consumers. Without documentation, can I develop my consumer logic? No. Why? We don't know. We don't know what is the URL, what is input, what is output. Once we read the documentation, then we will get the clarity of the about the provider. Then we need to start our consumer development. So we developed a provider, we deployed in the AWS cloud. Every one of you able to access that URL. And I developed my consumer application. It is running in my local machine. From my machine, my application able to communicate with the AWS URL. My API is running in the AWS. Are you guys clear? Any confusion? REST template and web client, right? What is the difference between REST template and web client? Come on. I'm deleting the REST template logic, guys. I will tell you real-time scenario. What is synchronous and asynchronous? I'm just giving my service layer, which contains web client logic. Okay. So here web client logic is available. The dependency, you need to add web flux dependency in the pom.xml. Perfect. Now, let's understand what is the difference between synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. What is the difference between synchronous communication and asynchronous communication? Sync and async communication. Synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. Now, here guys, let us take an example. Here, one application is available. One client is available here, or one app is available here. This app is sending a request for one API. Okay. So let me call this API as, zip API, zip code API. Let me call this API as a zip code API. And there is another API is available, which is weather API. Okay. There are two APIs available. One is zip API, another one is weather API. Right, perfect. So now my application want to access weather API as well as zip API. So first my application will send the request to zip code API. My application will send the request to zip code API by sending city name, giving the input as a city. This application will send a request to zip code API with the city name. Based on the city name, it will provide zip code of the city. That is the response. Input is the city name, output is the zip code. After getting the zip code, this same application will send zip code to weather application. Weather application will send weather report to my application. In that zip code, what is the current weather status? I will get as a response. Here, zip code I'm giving as a input and I'm getting temperature data as a response. Clear guys? My application communicating with two other applications. That means one consumer, there are two providers available. One is zip code API, another one is weather forecasting API. First API will take city name as an input and it will provide zip code as a output. After getting the zip code, my application will send zip code as a input for weather API and it will return temperature as a output. Now if you observe, to send second request for the weather API, to send the request for the weather API, do I need the response of the first API or I don't need that? We need or we don't need? I have a city name, man. I have a city name. I don't know what is zip code of my city at that moment. Okay. I have a city name. I will give the city name. It will talk to zip code API. It will get the zip code. Then with that zip code, it will send the request to weather API. It will give the response. Here, after sending request to the zip code API, my application should wait for the response. After getting the response from the zip code API, then only I will send the request for the weather API. That means after making a request to the zip code API, my application should wait for the response. After getting the response, then only I will send the request for the second API. That is called synchronous communication. That means your thread will wait for the response to proceed further. Your thread will wait for the response to proceed further. That is called synchronous communication. In our example, in the last session, I developed a client by using REST template, right? Here, once I make a call, get for entity, by using REST template, it will wait for the response from the IRCTC. After getting the response from the IRCTC, then only the next line will be executed. That means our thread will wait for the response. Once we got the response from the API, then only our thread will continue the execution. That is called synchronous communication. Are you guys able to follow me? Tell me, what is synchronous communication? Send the request and wait for the response. Sync communication, nothing but after sending the request, thread will wait for response. Thread will wait for the response. Then if you go for async communication, after sending the request, thread will not wait for the response. Thread will not wait for the response. Let me give the scenario for that. I am having one application, guys. I'm having one application. My application want to access person employee data, tax data. So there is a API called tax API is available, and there is a API called Aadhaar API is available. There is a API called Aadhaar API is available. Okay. Now, tax API will take PAN card number as an input, will give the tax income data. Aadhaar API will take Aadhaar number, will give the address data. Is there any relation between first API response with the second API request? No relation. Here I will give PAN number as an input to get the tax data. Here I will give Aadhaar number as an input to get the address data. Now, after sending the request for the tax API, assume that it will take 3 seconds to process the request. Do I need to wait 3 seconds here to send the request for Aadhaar API? I no need to wait. Why? Because two APIs are independent. I don't need the response of the first API to send the request for the second API. I will send request for first API immediately. Without waiting for the response, I will send the request for the second API. Okay. Now I will get the both responses, then I will process those responses. If you want to send two requests parallelly without waiting for the response, then you need to go for asynchronous communication. After sending the request, if you want to wait for the response, then you need to go for synchronous communication. Here, if you go for REST template, it supports only synchronous communication. If you go for REST template, it supports only synchronous communication. Whereas if you go for web client, by using web client, you can achieve this requirement and you can achieve this requirement also. REST template will support only synchronous communication, whereas web client will support both the synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. Currently, we have used web client. In this web client, in this scenario, I am making synchronous call or I am making asynchronous call. Synchronous call or asynchronous call? Synchronous call. Why? Because after getting the response, I need that. After sending the request, I need the response to return some value. After sending the request, I need some value to return that. That's why I'm calling .block method. What is the meaning of .block? I am making synchronous call by using web client. I'm making synchronous call by using web client. By using this, we can send asynchronous request also. If you want to send asynchronous request, instead of the block method, you need to go for subscribe method. What is that? Subscribe. If you go for .block, that means that request is a synchronous request. If you go for subscribe method, that will become asynchronous request. Are you guys able to follow me? Right. Let me demonstrate on asynchronous call. We already understood synchronous call. So this logic is for synchronous call or this logic is for asynchronous call? synchronous call. How can you say that it is for synchronous call? Come on. We are waiting for the response. After getting the response, then only it will return that. Okay, let me stop it. Let me create another simple application to demonstrate web client behavior. Let me demonstrate web client behavior. Right. Let me go for file, new, Spring Starter project. Let me make it as 29 async application. Async client app. Click on next. DevTools dependency, web dependency. Along with web, what I need, guys? Reactive web. Reactive web, nothing but web flux starter. When you are typing for dependency, if you type web flux, what is coming? Reactive web is coming. You need to select reactive web dependency. Click on next, click on finish. I'm creating one project. In this project, I want to show you how async call is happening. Okay. I need the URL of that API. Just I will make a GET request to the URL. I will show you difference between synchronous call and asynchronous call. Application. I have here run method. I don't want anything else. Here only I will write my logic. Got it? So let me go for web client dot create. What is the meaning of web client dot create? We are getting the implementation class of web client. Now let me go for web client dot get dot URI, some URL, comma, ticket number, some value. I'm hard coding. Dot retrieve dot body to mono. I'm taking it as string dot class. What is the meaning of that? Whatever the JSON we are getting, store into string variable. Earlier I used a ticket dot class. That means convert into ticket object. Okay. Body to mono, string dot class. Then I'm making dot block. Here my URL will be available. String URL. String URL is available. Okay. Let me pass that URL. Now here it is a static method. Let me make it as a static. Perfect. Now here, guys, I am writing one SOP, system.out.println request sending. Okay. Request sending. Now after this, after sending the request sending start, request sending end, request sending start, request sending end. Now here let me store the response. JSON response only I'm going to get because string dot class I'm using. Whatever the response giving by the API, I want to store that response into string variable. If you give ticket dot class, it will convert into ticket object. If you give string dot class, it will store into string variable. Then after print that response, system.out.println response. I'm printing that. Okay. Now observe the logic. In the main method, application.run method is available. Web client.create is available. Get URI, retrieve, body to mono, block. What is the meaning of a block? Synchronous call. That means when this SOP will be executed, after receiving the response or after receiving the after sending the request or after receiving the response? After receiving the response, because it is a block method. Run this application, run as boot app. Run as boot app. Go to console. Now see here. Request sending start, it printed. Then request sending ended. What is this? Ticket data. Who provided the ticket data? IRCTC API. So this is a synchronous request dot block. Okay. Now my requirement is, after sending the request to IRCTC, I should not wait for the response. Okay. I will continue my execution. Whenever response comes, then I will print on the console. Are you clear? Now see here. Remove this. Web client dot get dot URI is available. Instead of a block method, I will call a method called subscribe method. Now, what I will tell is, whenever response comes, then you call my method to print that response. Public static handle response string response system dot out dot println of response. Okay guys, public static handle response, public static void public static void handle response. It is a normal method. Now what I will do is, here my web client is available, and here API is available, here my handler is available. Okay, so this is API and this is response handler. Okay, this is my web client. I'm telling to web client, you send a request to the API, you don't wait for the response. Whenever you get the response, then you call the handler. That handler will take care of the response. Earlier, I have used dot block method. What is the meaning of a dot block method? After sending the request, you wait for the response, then you print that response. Okay, but now you send the request, you continue. You don't wait for that. When the response comes, then give it to the handler. So that's why here I have written one method called public static void handle response. Whatever the response is coming, give to this method as a parameter. This method will print on the console. Okay guys, subscribe method is available. For this subscribe method, I'm telling who is my handler. Handler response method is available. So dot subscribe application handle response. That means once you send a request, you don't wait for the response. You continue your execution. Whatever the remaining code is available, you execute that. Whenever the response comes, then give it to this method. That method will handle the response. Okay, guys, if it is synchronous request, what is the order of execution? First, this SOP will be printed, then this response should be printed, then this SOP should be printed. If it is a synchronous call, if it is a asynchronous call, first this SOP will be printed, request will be sent. It is a network call. From my system, a request is sending to AWS cloud. It will take at least 2 to 3 seconds, right, to give the response to me. In that time also, I don't want to wait. You said you print this SOP, then you send your request, you continue your execution. Whenever the response comes, then you print that response, right? If it is a synchronous, it should be in the same order. After sending the request, wait, then print the response, then continue the execution. But if it is a asynchronous, you send the request, you print this. If you get the response, then you print the response. Run this, run as boot application, go to console. 1 minute. It's already running on 8080. Let me stop and run it. Okay, now see the console. Now what happened, guys? Can you check this? What happened? What is the order of execution? Request sending start. Request sending completed. When the response is printed, is it waiting for that or it is not waiting for the response? If it is waiting for the response, first this line should not be executed. If it is waiting for the response, first it has to print the response, then this line has to be printed. But what is happening? This line is printed, request is sent, this line is printed. After that response came, then it is printed by the handler method. Can I call this as a asynchronous call? Right. So now tell me, what is the difference between synchronous call and asynchronous call? Synchronous call means after sending the request, thread will wait for the response. After getting the response, thread will continue. If it is a asynchronous call, after sending the request, thread will not wait for the response. It will continue. Whenever the response comes, it will give to the handler method. Okay. So now here, if you use the dot block method, it will become synchronous request. If you go for dot subscribe method, it will become asynchronous request. Now tell me, difference between REST template and web client. Can you tell me the difference between REST template and web client? REST template supports only synchronous communication, whereas web client supports synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. What is the difference between block method and subscribe method? Block method is used to make synchronous call with the web client. Subscribe method is used to call asynchronous. Suppose your requirement is only send the request. You don't need to take the response also. Then for the subscribe method, you no need to pass anything. That's it. That means I'm sending the request. I don't need the response from that. I will just send the request. I don't need the response. Are you getting my point? If you are expecting response, then for that subscribe method, you need to pass the parameter consumer, Java 8 consumer. What is the meaning of consumer? Only input, no output. Okay, I'm giving consumer. Consumer will take the input. It will print that input, but it is not going to return any output. Got it? Look at this method. This is the logic to send asynchronous request by using web client. Yes, sir. Right. If you, I don't want to wait for that, right? API will return. If you want to capture and if you want to print it, you can do that. If I don't write this now, my request will be sent. API will give the response, but I am not storing anywhere. I don't need that. Earlier, the logic is I will do like this. After calling the block method will give you a return type. I'm storing into the variable. But when I go for subscribe, there is no return type of that. I'm not storing that anywhere. Okay, fine guys. So with this, we understood what is consumer development, how to develop the consumer by using REST template, how to develop the consumer by using web client, what is a synchronous request and what is asynchronous. When to go for synchronous, when to go for asynchronous depends on the requirement. I want to make 2 requests for 2 APIs. Both APIs are independent. Then I can go for async call. If both are dependent, then I need to go for synchronous call. Are you clear? Any questions? First, online people, any doubts? Online people, any doubts?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, asynchronous call is not clear, sir. We are not getting the response. So how the further process will be done? Like in service method, we are getting the response. In REST tablet, we are getting the response, so we can process on that data.
Sir,
But-
there are some scenarios you will make a request to that. You don't wait for the response. That means your further logic should not depend on the response. Then only you will go for asynchronous call. If your further logic depends on the response, you should go for synchronous call.
Sir, please give me some scenario.
I will post a message. I mean, in the Apache Kafka, I will give you that scenario, sir, when you will make asynchronous call.
Okay, thank you, sir. One more question, sir, not related to this class. Sir, actually, when I send a list of objects in the form of XML, I'm not able to receive it on Postman, sir. It give accept.
Check
sir.
the headers properly. What are the headers you are sending? And check that, did you add the JAXB API dependency in the pom.xml or not?
Yes, sir. I checked all things. I am able to receive the single object, but not the list of objects, sir.
Oh, okay. So you cannot return the list as a return type when you are having that XML response. I will tell you what is the scenario for that. Okay, I understand your problem.
Okay, sir.
If you
Thank
are returning the list of objects, XML will not support directly. JSON
Okay,
will
sir.
support, but XML will not support.
Yes,
for
sir.
that.
Yes, sir. This is the
I
scenario.
understood. ठीक है
Okay,
सर.
sir. Okay,
आप
thank you, sir.
दूसरा क्लास क्रिएट करके वो क्लास पे एक क्लास को लिस्ट एज ए वेरिएबल you need to declare.
Okay,
Suppose
sir.
if you have a book,
Okay.
then you need to create a books class. In that books class, you need to take list of books. That books class you need to take as a return type, not list of books.
Okay, sir. I got it, sir.
Right.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yeah. Hi. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Sir, as we know that in the synchronized call, let's say I am calling a method in the synchronize, so it will not wait, and it will just continue the
Your
process.
voice is not clear, Rakesh.
Yeah, sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible now.
Sir, I'm saying that when we are calling a async way, so in async way, we are just requesting the for the output and we are just moving on. And when the
Correct.
response comes, then it will call our method.
Correct.
Sir, what if in between we are calling few other methods also that are not related to this thing? So let's say suppose I have called 3 more methods. So let's say my second
They will
method
become
executing.
synchronous, right? They will become synchronous. Only your call will become asynchronous. After subscribe method, if you are calling M1 method, M2, M3. After M1 completed, then only M2. After M2 completed, then only M3. That will
Yes, sir.
become
Sir,
synchronous execution.
Okay, sir, suppose my M2 is executing, suppose let's say my M1 is executing and at that time I got a response. So will it skip M2, M3 and go to the response method?
No.
Or
That will become a threads, right? That response will be handled by other thread. Your continuation will be happening by the existing thread. It will not disturb that flow.
Okay, sir, understood.
That is called parallel processing.
Okay, sir, thank you, sir.
Okay. Good, guys.